And first thing I want to say is I'm proud to be from Minnesota, and I'm proud to be a farmer in Minnesota, and proud of what this state does as an agricultural powerhouse here in the United States of America. You know, in this state, we have a lot of ag. We have a lot of ag business. And I was looking at, I think the magazine that Farm Bureau puts out, that of the Fortune 500 companies, 15 of those here in Minnesota, 5 of those deal in agriculture or food processing or food industry. So extremely strong ag business as well. And of the top 100 cooperatives in America, 15 of those are headquartered right here in Minnesota. As Dan mentioned, we're facing some challenging times right now, but you know, we deal in commodities, and commodities go up and down. But I think what's really impacted us more than ever this time around with this downturn is what inflation has done to the cost of what we produce. I saw some studies from the University of Illinois, and the average break-even price for corn, they estimated, this is nationally now, about $4.80 a bushel. And I checked my local elevator yesterday, and the new crop corn was about $4.10. So the answer is not to grow more bushels of corn and lose 70 bushels. So we hope that things kind of straighten out again and return to a profitable margin. In the Ag Committee, we are trying to get a little bit of a boost in ag spending, despite the fact that the state is looking at a projected deficit a couple of years down the road. And just a fact to let you know that the bang we get for agriculture in this state, the ag budget that goes to the Department of Agriculture, and they have the Board of Animal Health, and they have AURI, amounts to 24/100%, less than 0.5% of the overall state budget. And if we get a little increase, it'll still be less than 24/100 of the overall state budget. So we're trying to get an increase for agriculture. And my priority is to make sure that the Board of Animal Health is fully funded with the incidence of highly pathogenic bird flu, and it's moving into other strains of animals, dairy cattle especially. We're pretty good here in Minnesota right now, but we have to be vigilant and make sure the board has all the tools they need in their work against the livestock diseases here in the state. So thank you all for coming. Great to see you here, and hope to see you tonight too over at the fairgrounds. So thanks again.
So we're fortunate to be joined with the other half of the House Ag Committee, Co-Chair Representative Rick Hansen. If you want to come forward and say a few words, let's welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you know, in the Minnesota House, we are tied. And so Paul and I do work together, and we will work together, and we will get a bill passed that benefits agriculture in the state of Minnesota. But I want to just take a moment here and ask you just to look behind me and look behind us at your brothers and sisters and friends and neighbors, people from your communities with disabilities. They are not your adversaries in a budget. We are all Minnesotans, and we are all going to be looking for limited money. So the folks that are behind us here from all over the state are your colleagues, they're your consumers, they're your partners. And I ask you to think about them and work with them and all the other groups that come here, not just on Ag Day, but every day, because how are we going to get through things? We're going to have to get through things together. And we can't isolate just in agriculture. We can't say agriculture has to do this or we all have to do that. The we, the our, has to be what we do in Minnesota. I can tell you I've been here 20 years. I represent South St. Paul. I represent old industrial communities, but I grew up in Freeborn County where I farm with my brother. And I grew up and I have a farm in Fillmore County. And what I've noticed in the building over the last 20 years is a lot more of I, me, and my. I, me, and my. And I'm asking you, actually pleading with you, to think of we, our, and us. Because to build support for the things that we believe in, we are going to have to reach out to people we don't normally deal with. There's not enough of I, me, and my just alone to make things happen. It has to be we, our, and us. And on Ag Day, when we work on feeding everyone, that we, our, and us, I think comes home to everyone. So in conclusion, I just want you to think about that. Look beyond the tractor. Look at our neighbors, our colleagues, our brothers and sisters, and think of how we can work together, even with folks we disagree with, to make things work for our state. Thank you.
I think we've got Senator Eric Putnam, who's chair of the Ag Committee. Come on up, say a few words, and let us know what you know.
That'll be really quick then. If that's all I'm supposed to do is tell you what I know. We're already done. Hey, thanks for being here, you guys. It's great to see everybody here. It's great to see some good friends coming back here to advocate and celebrate again. It's also great, you know, it's a special occasion when Commissioner Peterson's wearing a tie. So it's a special day for everybody, if for that reason alone. You know, I just called you guys friends, and I did that on purpose. Because I think that the world we're in right now, the moment we're in right now, requires political friendship. Which doesn't mean we all agree. It doesn't mean we're buddies necessarily. We don't have to go to happy hour together all the time or work together on the farm. But we do have to work together, period. That is essential. And one of the things that I've always loved about being in the agricultural community is that farmers know that. They're concerned about solving the problem and taking care of business, not about partisan talking points or you know, complaining about what other people are doing. That farmers, at least in my experience, are always concerned about getting the job done, not taking credit for the job, but doing the job. And this place could learn a hell of a lot from farmers, because that focus of solving problems and taking care of business is something that we have forgotten. And you know, the funny thing is my pal Mark Johnson is back there. He wasn't paying attention, so I'm calling him out like I would in class. We all get along perfectly well when there isn't a camera. Do you guys know that? We get along perfectly well. We're good friends, talking about each other's families. But as soon as there's a camera or a microphone or a reporter, all of a sudden we hate each other, or people that we think are like that. That's in nobody's best interest because it doesn't solve problems. But you're here as advocates and as farmers, teaching us how to do our job better, and for that I thank you. We're all better off when advocates show up in good faith and good spirit and do good work, allowing us to do the best work that we can do. Now, we're never, ever going to get it right. So we're going to talk so much over the next couple months about a budget shortfall. But has there ever been enough money? Ever? To solve all the problems? Have there ever been so few problems that we've taken care of everything? No, because this whole thing is a process. We have to commit to the process of working together, of living in tension, and in working on solving problems that we know will never be perfectly solved, but you know what? They're going to be a hell of a lot better because we showed up and went to work. So don't expect us to solve all the problems, just like you can't expect yourselves to grow a perfect crop. But what you can expect and what you must demand is that we show up to work in good faith, with good spirit, and towards a public good that works for everyone. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing that, and it's great to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Putnam. Certainly appreciate the relationship that we've grown to get over the last few years. So, I think I'll bring our Vice President, Carolyn Olson, up to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you. We are going to welcome right now our Commissioner of Agriculture, Tom Peterson. Tom Peterson has been a dedicated voice for Minnesota agriculture for a very long time, and he has helped us out in many ways before he was the commissioner and now as commissioner, and we've always appreciated our relationship with him. And I will turn it over to him, but please join me in welcoming Commissioner Tom Peterson.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you. All right, I'll just make a couple of comments. Thank you, Madam Vice President. And you know, I've had the honor to visit so many different people's farm I've ridden in the combine with Carolyn. She's a really good driver, by the way, and very impressive, and all the things that she does. You know, happy Ag Day to everybody. You know, it's hard when you are on a farm and everything that you do. I think about this morning. I had my tractor wouldn't start. I had a broken board. Things that you got to fix. You got to keep going. You got to do everything. You get in the car. You come here. I really appreciate everybody that made the trip down here today from all parts of the state, especially folks from Pine County and East Central Minnesota, from my area. And it just really highlights the importance of in a state with 5.7 million people and 65,000 farm families, the amount of work that they do. It's easy to focus on those problems on the farm, and we have plenty of them, whether it's avian influenza, questions about tariffs, prices, all kinds of things, the weather, that is going on. But I always think, too, we balance that. My wife always tells me this, balance that with the good things. As you heard from some of the representatives, the first bill that passed and the governor signed yesterday was an agriculture bill that is a grain buyer's bill that passed bipartisanly, and that was the first bill. We're very proud that that was the first agriculture bill. The Deputy Commissioner, Andrea Vobel, and I were just on a call. There's going to be a big announcement today on our disaster assistance program from the USDA. And so there's a lot of good things that happen, and we want to focus on those a lot too as we go forward. So with that, I am going to read the proclamation here. And again, those of you tonight who will be here tonight, when I read it again, make sure you pretend like I've read it before, so or that look excited. So, the State of Minnesota Proclamation. Whereas Minnesota farmers feed our state, our nation, and our world, giving us countless opportunities to celebrate the efficiency, dedication, and diversity of our state's agriculture. And whereas the agriculture sector of Minnesota is innovative, continuously building on centuries of progress through advances in science, research, technology, safety, production, and marketing to meet the demands of a changing consumer needs and complex world markets. And whereas the agriculture sector makes invaluable contributions to our state's economy by providing jobs across Minnesota for farmers, ranchers, foresters, scientists, processors, and transporters. And whereas Minnesota is a national leader in agriculture, ranking among the top states in the production of green peas, red kidney beans, sugar beets, and turkey, and contributing significantly to food security, economic growth, and rural development. And whereas the agriculture community ensures all people in Minnesota have access to safe, nutritious, and abundant food while remaining committed to protecting the land for future generations. And whereas Minnesota farmers and agricultural workers are the heart and soul of the state, representing the spirit of one Minnesota and playing a critical role in our bright future. Now, therefore, I, Tim Walz, Governor of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 as Agriculture Day in the state of Minnesota. And I'll present this to Dan.
Thank you.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Dan. We'll take a picture. All right.
All right. Well, thank you. We are waiting for one additional guest, and he's just showing up. So, yeah, please. Governor. Hey, you no.
I have my scout up here. So
Should I show my true colors? But no.
We're split. I like John Deere. The president likes Case IH. We can get along. Yeah.
You as well. Thank you for joining us on National Ag Day. What a great celebration, and share a few words with these folks if you would. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, Vice President Olson. To all of you, thanks for being up here. And I think it's worth saying, as an organization under this leadership team, I would make the case that there's probably no one that garners more respect here at the Capitol, and a group that's able to transcend the politics, all in advocacy for what's best for Minnesota agriculture, what's best for our communities, what's best on the innovation that Minnesota is known for. So all of you came up here, and this is your First Amendment right to petition the government, I would argue it's not just a right, it's a responsibility to make the case. And I've said this for years, whether it was me being from agriculture country, my mom still being down there on that farm, or 12 years on the Ag Committee where we wrote 3 farm bills together. Those were bipartisan, all in the best interest of this country, making sure that the people standing here are the people that not only feed, fuel, and clothe Minnesota and this country, but the world. We've worked hard to open markets. People want to buy American-grown products. And so right now, as we're looking at decisions being made around tariffs, around trade, your voices matter. And I say that because there's going to be folks that anything that is said is under a political prism rather than what's a practical prism. And this innovation, look, it started here. Norman Borlaug and Minnesota producers feeding the world and showing that it can be done. We produce far more than we need here. It's creating those markets. So I have to tell you, I want to thank Commissioner Peterson for the work that he does. Minnesota Ag's out there to make sure we're doing the research and coordinating. You'll do your job. You'll grow, produce, sell. We need to be there to help on some of the markets, creating the markets. We need to be there on some of the research to make sure we're taking on things like H5N1 and things that are over the horizon. And then we need to do the things that we can do collectively together. I'm very proud. We just returned from the Netherlands. There's 2 places in the world that are leading on sustainable aviation fuel, and that is Rotterdam in the Netherlands and Minnesota. And our nation-leading tax credit around this creating new opportunities to create a sustainable aviation fuel. We're not going to have battery-powered airplanes in the near future. We're going to have airplanes that are going to use sustainable fuel produced right here in Minnesota as a way to not only create a market, to address climate, and to provide what's needed. So as you're up here today advocating for folks, I know it's uncertain. You've got enough uncertainty. Weather. Corn at 460 is pretty tough. Soybeans at 10.15, pretty tough. Those margins are pretty narrow. We can't afford to have Canada make it hard for us to get potash and to get fertilizer. That is going to cause disruption. So I would ask all of you, use your voice, think about it here in Minnesota, making sure that we're investing in ag. And I know that means making sure rural communities have access to health care, have access to emergency medical care, have access to broadband, have access to roads and bridges. Economy of scale makes it more difficult to build in rural areas, but it's also those areas that are producing the things that are a big part of Minnesota's economy. We have a diverse economy, but let's be very clear. Agriculture has been a clear piece of it. And I think the partnership together in working to make sure the sustainability, whether that's maintaining our soil, our water quality, very proud of what everyone has done on voluntary work around ag water quality certification to get us over 1 million acres. So President Glessing, I appreciate you up here. You have the ability to transcend the politics up here. We've got a budget year this year that Minnesota's in good shape, but we've got to do some cost containment. The only thing you're going to see, we've got an R&D tax credit, and I think when people think R&D, they maybe think 3M or Medtronic. There's R&D in agriculture that's happening that we need to make sure that we continue to lead on. So grateful you're all here, grateful for the work you do. It's a very small number of people who feed us, and as the commissioner always reminds you, if you're going to criticize agriculture, don't do it with your mouth full. And we need to be very clear who does that. And so grateful you're here. Good to see it. You'll hear from a lot of legislators, but your voice matters up here. Let them hear it. Thank you. Grateful. Appreciate it. Oh, yeah, the honor. You got that? Oh, yeah.
All right, that concludes our rally on the Capitol. I know we have a lot of great meetings. Vice President Olson, any marching orders? What's that?
Okay, all of our Farm Bureau members and our guests, we are going to have a group photo on the steps that are directly in front of me, behind you. So if you could line up, tallest in the back, shortest in the front, please. And make sure that you can see the photographer in front of you, so look for your window. But also, as you do that, and you are meeting with your legislators, remember the impact that you have and the reason why you're here, and we thank you for joining us on this Ag Day. Let's have fun.